Welcome everyone to my channel, Beth Bell Live. I am so happy to have you here each week, 11:11 Pacific time. We dive into matters of the heart. Whether your heart is broken, healed, whole, all of them, there is more room for expansion, for more love and more light. And we need that in the world right now, don't we? We need more love and light. So we want to do everything we can to heal our hearts and to keep our hearts open and to love big and to put fear in the back seats and or just let it go, right? So if you haven't already done the state of the heart assessment, I would recommend you go over to bethbell.me and fill out the state of the heart. You'll get some interesting emails with some tips and tools that will help you wherever you are and whatever state your heart is in. So I have a live studio audience, and I'm always so happy to have people here with me, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or one of the other ways that you can be on live. Thank you for being here. And if you have a question, either your question or maybe something comes up, you're listening to someone else's question and the answer that's coming, and you're like, I have something so similar, or I have something that I want to ask in addition, please jump in right in the comments and we'll add your question into the mix. Now, if you're watching on replay, that's fine too. You can add it in the comments and we'll look for it for next week. Or you can go over to bethbell.me/question and submit your question there. It's a little bit more confidential, but we also love to have you engage with us online on YouTube. So I'm so happy you're here. Now, I wanted to say a few things about what's catapulting my heart this week. One thing is I had an amazing breathwork session yesterday. A beautiful soul came from Ecuador. And if you want to know more details, especially if you're in the Southern California area, let me know. I'll hook you up with her or one of the other many beautiful breathwork coaches. But we had 10 people in my living room and we had an amazing session that she led us through. She's amazing, but everyone that showed up was just in breath. And I as I laid down on the mat, I thought, oh my goodness, like in 2005, I bought books on conscious breathing. And way back then, there was no way that I could get myself to actually do the breathing techniques and feel any different. And I'm like, I know there's something to this, but I just can't quite get to it. And so over the years, I've learned a lot of different modalities, and breathwork has been one of them. I did it while living in Bali, and it was nice to do it again now because I just find so much value with breathwork, and having it facilitated and guided just takes it to a whole nother level because you kind of can't get out of it. And one other thing I want to say is that if you have done some breath work and you get something called tetany, which is where your fingers get all like cramped up, and it's actually a really miserable experience. And sometimes it's other body parts that get numb. You're releasing something that needs to be let go of. And so keep with it. Yesterday was the first day that I've done breath work. I did still have that tetany and I did still have a lot of tightening and numbing, but I was able to stick with it. And I knew that I stuck with it because I had a really strong facilitator and I had a group of beautiful souls, 10 other souls that were here doing the same breath work together. So I can't say enough about doing group activities like this. We try to do everything on our own sometimes, and it can be powerful, but also being in community is really helpful. So that's catapulting my heart because I know I cleared a lot of stuff yesterday and a lot of energy and just brought more space in every cell of my body to love myself more and to shine the light more and to love others more. And I love nothing more than to share my love. So I hope that's inspiring to you as well. And again, if you want more information, I also talk about breath work, I believe, in the Awakening and Healing Handbook at bethbell.me. So you might want to check that out. There's lots of tips, tools, techniques in the handbook. All right, I want to jump in. So if you're with me live, please start queuing up your questions. I would love to hear what's on your mind and what's on your heart. And I have to say that I'm not sick, but I have some kind of an allergy. So forgive me for any snafus and moments where I may have to take a sip or blow my nose because I think it's allergies, which I've never had before. But for some reason, I'm just stuffed up today. All right, we're going to dive in to question number 1. In the world of the masculine and feminine and dating, we want the man to be the pursuer and the planner. So we wait. As an independent, highly driven woman, I'm used to getting things done quickly and efficiently. I've met someone and it's difficult to wait. How long do I wait for him to step up? What should I do? Continue to wait or break down and reach out to them? I've done all the hunt all the I've done all the hunting I can do by giving I've done all I can do by giving him yes signals. I think there was a little typo there. I've done all that I can do by giving him yes signals. First of all, I want to say we have to get over some of these ideas about men and women. Now, you mentioned masculine and feminine, and I love that because it is about the masculine and feminine energy within ourselves. We get really caught up on penis and vagina and like which side of the road you're on. And I think that there's so many energies right now coming in that are telling us like we need to get rid of this. And I also find it ironic. And again, this is not for you. I think it's more the collective. I find it ironic that we have such a feminist movement and yet we still want a man to hold the door for us. It's like which way are we going to go on this? And so I think we need to honor each individual person as a masculine and feminine being. And so I think there's probably some social societal beliefs constructs that are in this situation for you that you want to blow up. Because if you're thinking that he has to do something, whatever that something is, then you're just not in the essence of exploration with someone else. And I guess I'll say that when you're talking about being this strong woman, there is nothing wrong with that. We love strong women. However, as a strong woman, are you in your feminine energy, or are you in your masculine as a strong woman? Because honestly, I have to say, I'm not a man, obviously. But if I were a man, like I would be so flippin' confused these days on like what to do, what not to do. And so you got to be in your feminine. You got to be ready to be that juiciness that you are as a woman and allow the man to be the man. And if he's not reaching out, that may be why. And if that doesn't resonate, it may be that you have this expectation. Because I'm feeling like this I don't want to say force, but I'm feeling this tenacity, this energy behind the question. And that's where I'm going to say, maybe that's what's actually stopping him from stepping up. Because most men don't want to have to rival their woman for the floor. And so if you're not truly in your feminine, then you're maybe not ready to do the dance with someone who's truly in their masculine. And of course, we want the man to also be in that feminine, masculine energy as well. But I know women, oftentimes in this spiritual community, not always, are leading the way with some of this integration. And so we have to guide the men, we have to guide the masculine, and we have to ebb and flow and really help in relationship to have that connection and that communion. And so I would kind of lay off with these stories about like what a man should do and what you want a man to do or not do, and just speak your truth. And if your truth is that you want to hang out with this person, then write him and say, hey, like I'm really interested in exploring this relationship. And when I hear, again, this might not be for you, it might be the collective, but when I hear you say, I'm doing everything I can to give him yes signals. It's like, no, just say what it is. Like, forget about the signals. Like, just be really clear. I would like this. And then if he's not acting, every man knows how to get a woman. It's innately within him. So if he is not pursuing you, there is something that's not right for you or him, and I would just allow that to be and let it go and move on to someone else who is ready to jump in. But you also have to be ready to jump in. You have to say, I want this with you, I'm interested in this with you. And then also I would just say in general, one of the ways that we can really help men is making eye contact, just really looking at them, really seeing them, really acknowledging that they're sitting there in front of us and giving them our presence. And that means getting out of that mind narrative and getting out of thinking about all the things that we wish they were doing or not doing, or the judgments that we make about other people in general. So, and that goes for the men as well. Like, you have to show up and really do the eye gazing and be ready to share your soul and be ready to speak the truth. And sometimes the truth feels ugly, but it doesn't have to. And that's where, when we really get into loving ourselves for all of our beautiful flaws and strengths, then we can have these really vulnerable and deeper connections with other humans on planet Earth. All right, hopefully that's helpful. If not, and you want to go deeper, you can always schedule a one-on-one session with me. You can check it out on bethbell.me. All right, let's go on to the next question. Or do we have a question that's live? Yeah, okay.
What is the best way to make a long distance relationship work? Or at least in the beginning?
Well, the obvious answer is just to get in the same city. But I know that that's not always possible. And so, what's really important is communication. What's really important is including each other in your life. Sometimes that's in the form of text, sometimes that's in the form of actually picking up the phone and calling each other. I think the more you can share and the more transparent you can be, the better. I know that sometimes what happens with long distance relationships, and I'm not saying this is for you necessarily, but certainly in the collective, a lot of times what happens is people build a fantasy about themselves and about who they are and what they do. And it's easy when there's a long distance relationship to talk about all the good things that are happening and not necessarily talk about the things that you're struggling with. And so I would just suggest that the truth is really important, and transparency, to talk about everything that's happening. And if that feels right for you, or if it feels like, oh, I'm micromanaging the relationship, then it's either not the right relationship, or maybe you're not ready to be in a long distance relationship, because it takes a little bit more commitment in some ways, because you have to make time to connect. Whereas if you're living in the same town or the same household, sometimes it's easier to just, show up and know what's going on. So I think that communication part's really important. Now, with that said, I will also say that not only are you making up fantasies, not you, but generally, fantasies about yourself and like how you want to be perceived, and I'm just going to show my best side. You're also making up fantasies about the other person, and you're seeing them as what you want to see, and that's not necessarily bad. I'm just saying that you want to continually validate, like, is this person actually the person, the real person, or is it the person that I'm fantasizing that I want them to be? And so that's kind of the glitch sometimes with long distance relationships, is that the reality of the day to day doesn't always come through until you get to a place where you can actually be in the same location. And so I think that it's totally possible. And the best part about long distance relationships potentially is that the chemistry, the sexual chemistry, doesn't have to be the one thing that you're acting on. A lot of times in new relationships, you're just really locked into like having the physical experience, which is wonderful and you should do. But sometimes that makes people not talk as much and not get into some of the deeper things that are going on in their life. And so having a long distance relationship in the beginning, at least, is nice, because then you can practice your communication skills. You can practice articulating how you feel, because you have to actually speak it. You can't just show it. And so there's a lot of benefits there in long distance relationships, because you can learn a lot about each other without just the bedroom and all the fun, sexy stuff that happens especially with new love. So I think that you'll find, if you are, again, just very much from transparency, communication, and trust. And if you're not trusting, if there's something that's coming up and you're like, hmm, I don't think this is right, then there's really two ways to look at it. Is it my shit? or is it really them? So don't ignore your intuition. Don't ignore, like, if you feel like, I don't know, something doesn't feel right, because chances are you are really connected to that person and your intuition is serving a purpose. However, past relationships, past wounds, past heartbreak, it can all play into the mix, and it might have nothing to do with your new partner, and it might have everything to do with a previous relationship and maybe someone that betrayed you, or again, maybe this isn't for you, but just in general, that there's whatever your issues are in relationships has a tendency to come up. So don't ignore it. Just understand, is it mine, or is it really something that they are telling me that I need to not just gloss over? Hopefully that's helpful. And if you're still on live with us, yes, give more information if you want something more. And if not, we'll move on to the next question. I appreciate that one. Okay, so we will go on to the next question. Or did we get anything more on that? Okay. I am working through the Tao, or the Tao, the Ching teachings, and today's had a profound line. Where there is no desire, all things are at peace. I understand the concept of it. You accept everything as divine and perfect as is, and therefore no need to desire more. You will be at peace. But is this realistic in the reality of our lives as humans here to have connections and always wanting more? This is the struggle. I mean, I don't like the word struggle, but it's legit. Like, we struggle with this all the time, and it is part of the spiritual awakening journey that we get into the current moment of now. And I know it sounds so cliche, doesn't it? And it's like, but how? But how do I just like be happy with the now, like right now? And what comes forward is, it was actually years ago, a dear friend of mine posted something on Facebook, and I happened to see it. And it was a picture of his daughter looking at a leaf on the ground. And as a father, he was reflecting on just how his daughter was in such awe of this leaf on the ground. And so it hit me as well, like just reading this post. And I was like, that's it. That's really it, is being so in the moment of just like the wonder and the awe. And sometimes I have some lilies sitting right here, some beautiful flowers. And being a flower whisperer, I often leverage the beauty and the awe of Mother Nature, right? And just, oh, wow, there's just like so much there. And we get so like overstimulated by our environments that the small things get missed, right? Stop and smell the roses. That we just have to kind of quiet our lives down a little bit to just feel into our bodies, not just thinking with our mind, because we're always looking at our external screen. We're always looking at what's coming at us. And so, what our spiritual journey is asking us to do is to feel in our bodies, like actually feel like, how do I feel about this moment right now? And allowing yourself to feel it and then letting it go. So whether you're feeling maybe a sense of sadness for whatever reason, allow yourself to feel it and go, "Oh gosh, I'm feeling sad right now." And then inquire, is there something I need to really address here? And maybe you journal it, maybe you don't. Maybe you don't have time, maybe you're in the middle of a work meeting, you're like, "I feel this emotion." And what I would say there is just note it. Just note, what that feeling is, and then come back to it a little bit later when you have time. But this question, I think, is very specific because it says, um, is this realistic in the reality of our lives as humans here to have connections and always wanting more? So I feel like this is related to this person wanting a connection with someone, that desire. And I'm feeling that it's romantic. And they're like, but how do I have peace? Like, when I'm not getting the romance, and wanting more. Like, I get a taste of it, and then like, I want more, I want more, I want more. And what I would say is savor it. Savor it, like a good glass of wine. If you just suck it all down, it's gone, right? I remember when I used to drink a lot of red wine, which I don't do so much today. My gut just doesn't handle it. But when I used to do that, I remember I had this thing with my group that I would drink wine with, and there was like the person who had the last sip was like golden, because you were savoring just like every little nuance, and the wine would open up and be bigger and bolder, and have more flavor, right? Because it aerated. And so it was always like, who really enjoyed the glass of wine the most? Again, it wasn't from a judgment standpoint. It was more just from like a savoring standpoint. So that's what I would say for you is if you're really desiring this connection with someone and you want more of it, I would say savor what you have without becoming obsessed. Because when you become obsessed, and again, I'm not saying you, I'm just saying for the collective, when we become obsessed and then that desires and we just want, I want that, I want that, it is outside of you. No, don't go outside of you. Don't go to everybody else in your wine circle. Go to, ooh, I got to savor this last sip of wine for me. I got to experience it on, the taste on my taste buds, the bouquet, the aroma. I'm having this experience. So you can leverage that connection for what you want more of, as long as you don't fall into then this over desire, right? This like, I want that from the outside. No, I feel it from the inside. And when you feel that desire from the inside, it's you. And when you are that, you attract more of that. And so whether it's that particular person or it's the new person, you'll get more of it. But if you sit in the disparity, right, of not having it, that's where the suffering comes in, because you're like, I want that, but I don't have it. It's like, no, you have it. It's in you already. You just have to sit in it within you, not look for it from someone else, and it will come, because that's how we attract things. I know law of attraction makes us think that it's all about like our mind and what we think, and certainly that's true to some degree, but if your thought is not attached to an emotion, if it's not attached to something embodied within you, that's when it doesn't work. And a lot of people don't tell you that. All right. Hopefully that's helpful. If not, please feel free to schedule a one-on-one session or write more in the comments if you're with us live. Okay. Do we have another question online or in the studio audience? Okay, great.
Hi there. I haven't been with this person in over 3 years, and no, there's no romantic involvement.
Mm.
And I still care for this person and want to remain friends.
Mm.
Now I'm in a deeply committed relationship, and I'm feeling that I might not need to be connected so much with this friend, this previous relationship that I had. But I still struggle with that. I care. Any advice on how to handle these past romantic relationships?
Yeah. Bless every soul that you have ever been romantically involved with, because they have given you many, many gifts. And oftentimes I think we see the negative side of some of these relationships. And I feel from you that you're seeing actually a lot of the positive sides, and you're wanting that relationship, but now that to stay, but now that you're in a committed relationship, like something's changed within you. And I think that that's natural and normal. And I think one of the things that we don't get taught is, how do we cherish other people that we love, but also have a conscious uncoupling and a conscious closure. And so I think, innately as humans, we want to hang on to love from other people, and we want to have contingency plans, and I'm not necessarily saying that that's exactly your situation. I'm not feeling that you want a contingency plan, but we do kind of hang on to these romantic partnerships because we have fond memories of them. And so I think there's a lot of times where we do have a conscious uncoupling. I know one of the practices that I have with all of my past relationships is to, number one, look at all the lessons that they came in to teach me, because I have a soul contract with any lover I've ever been with. And I want to get the lesson and I want to grow from the lesson. So that would be number one. Number two, when you get really clear, like this is not for you right now, but when you get really clear on like, I think this soul contract is ending with this person, then have trust and transparency that you're saying like, this is where I'm shifting to, so that it doesn't come as a surprise to the other person that, oh, geez, okay, wait, all of a sudden, like you've shifted. So do that. And if you're now way beyond that, because I know you're 3 years out, um, if you haven't or you didn't do something like that was really conscious about how you uncoupled yourself, then I would recommend that you do a little bit of work on your ethereal life cord. Now, if you're not familiar with that, it's something we all have. And maybe an easy way to just sort of get into this idea of it is, when you're born, you are connected to your mother's umbilical cord. So it's not an umbilical cord, but it's a similar concept where you are attached to someone. So when we become intimate, when we give birth to a child, that child is wrapped around our ethereal life cord, our energy center. And so, even with children, we often have to do, or with parents, we have to do an uncoupling of these energies. Because if we don't, we get these hooks. And a lot of times the hooks aren't really helping or serving our highest good, but we hang on to them because there's a safety, a security. So you want to find out, what is that safety, security that I'm trying to hang on to this person for? So I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but it's all going to come together here in a second. That if you are the mother of a child, a lot of times mothers hook on to their child's life cord because they come in with such beautiful innocence and pure love. And that we just want that. We just want to be with them on that. And we suck off of our children's life cords. We have to let that go. We have to find a conscious way to have this uncoupling so that our children can go out into the world and feel confidently and independently in love with themselves, not attached to like how we taught them love and all of these crazy ideas. They're not crazy, but I just mean crazy in that it's not true love. It's attachment. It's a way of feeling comfortable. It's a way of like, oh my God, that I'm not going to be alone in the universe. So we have to find these ways with our children. And I'm using that as an example because I think that it helps take off some of the ideas that we have about romance, right? And romantic relationships, because ethereal life cords are ethereal life cords and we get hooked onto them. Our friends hook onto them. But when we're intimate with someone and we have sex with someone, that's where we get entangled. And I don't mean entangled from a negative. I just mean that sometimes if it's an entanglement, it's like hard to get out of. Okay, I know I went a little deep there, and I know your question was actually a little bit more like, just what do I do, right? Like, what do I do? And I brought all that forward because it is really part of all of you. And unless you go in there and realize, like, what are my safety hooks that I'm trying to hang on to? And when you let go of the safety hooks, then you just love that person for who they are and you just let them go do their life. You don't feel like you have to touch base with them. You don't feel like you have to make sure that they're okay. You don't have to, yeah, do all those things that you would do if you were still romantically involved with them. So you can still find ways to show them and demonstrate that you care, but not out of obligation. If it's obligation, then it's hooks. And so if you're in a deeply committed relationship now, you're feeling that, oh, wait, I don't need to have that safety net. I don't want to have that safety net. Like, I don't want to have that special connection with that other person because I have a connection with my person now. And I want to hold that as the sacred love that we share. And I don't want any of these hooks coming in from other relationships. And it takes work. But it doesn't have to be miserable work. It doesn't have to be hard work. It just has to be really intentional work. And there's lots of ways that you can go about doing this. For time's sake, I won't go into all of them today, but there are lots of these in the Awakening and Healing Handbook on bethbell.me. So, or you can schedule a one-on-one session. I'm happy to go deeper into it. If you have specific questions, yeah, let me know. Does that help at all?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Okay, let's go on to the next question, unless we have someone on live. Okay. My mom passed 12 years ago. I've felt her presence over the years unexpectedly and enjoyed the encounters. Sometimes I want to more proactively feel her. How do you think I can connect? Okay, so first of all, I think this is so beautiful that you're actually experiencing or have experienced her presence. And I know how frustrating it can be at times when we actually want it and then we don't get it. I remember after my mom's mom passed, my grandmother, I just was like, I mean, I speak to people on the other side. I'm like, she is coming to me. I'm talking to my grandma. And she didn't show up. She didn't show up. She didn't show up. She didn't show up. And I was like, dang it. Like, how is this possible? Like, I even, like, I'm open to this. I have skill sets for this. Like, where the hell are you? And it wasn't until years later she showed up in a dream, and a nighttime dream, but it was like a lucid dream. And I was like, oh, she was doing her work on the other side. She was doing her stuff. And and she was very clear with me that she's always here too, but that I actually didn't need her. And she's like, so I didn't dip in, like, you didn't need me. And so I didn't stop what I was doing on the other side to come to you just to fulfill this desire for you to speak to me. And I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." So sometimes on the other side, they really are doing their work, and sometimes their work is on themselves and their own healing work. And sometimes it's like for her, it came to me really clear that she's like an earth angel now, and so she has lots of assignments, and she's a guardian angel to lots of other humans on the earth. And so I was like, okay, thanks, like that really helped me. Like, now I know why you weren't showing up, or I wasn't able to contact you. Now for this particular one though, yeah, so sometimes I think proactively we can't. Sometimes we, because they're busy, because we actually don't need them. We think we do, but we don't. And so just know that in your heart, that if you aren't connecting, don't be hard on yourself. Just allow it to come when it's meant to be. Now, there are ways I think that you can kind of prompt it, and sometimes that's, through another psychic medium or someone who can really call them in, and be that conduit. And so I think if you have that strong of a desire, you're going to find a psychic medium that's going to actually help you do that connection and call that person in. And or it could be that it's just a calling for you to build that toolbox for yourself, if you really want to have that proactive conversation. Now, another thing that's coming to mind to share is that I found, now that when I do want to proactively speak to my grandmother, um, I know that she always had this rose lotion on her nightstand. And so that's what I think about when I think about my grandmother. And I went into one of the spiritual stores here, and I found this rose incense. And so I realized, oh gosh, I'm going to buy this rose incense. And so I light that, and I ask for my grandmother to come through. And inevitably she does, by lighting the rose incense. So it just, like, it's kind of like my, I guess it's my smoke signal, right? Up to the heavens, that says, like, up to the other realms, that says, hey, like, I actually want to have this conversation with you right now. And then I do that personally. I do that mostly through journaling, but not always. It just feels like the pen in my hand gets my mind to just quiet enough to where I can actually just let the pen write. And then sometimes I'm actively in it, and sometimes I look at it later and I really get the message. So hopefully that's helpful for you to be able to connect in with anyone crossed over on the other side. And I don't want to not say this, that you can actually do this with people who are alive. Like, you can speak to their higher self, people who are alive. So you can connect in. A lot of people think, like, oh, it was so serendipitous that I was thinking about calling you and then you called me, right? Like those kind of situations. So we do connect in, and we do communicate with people. And the closer we are, and the stronger our sacred soul connection is with them, the more we can have these conversations that are not even here with words, but that we think of things. And maybe another example, if you're one of those like skeptics, um, is we hear this a lot with identical twins or twins, right? Where they can be, it's like non-locality. This is quantum physics. I'm not making this up. They can be in separate places, and they can have the same thoughts, the same images come to mind. And so there's lots of ways that you can build that muscle as well, that spiritual muscle, and put that in your toolbox to just be able to tune in to other people. And it's beautiful when you do. It's not like you're invading on their privacy. That, everyone still has discernment around like what people can access from their field, but it's a nice way to just stay connected with people. And sometimes, it's just simply to say like, I love you, or I'm thinking about you and I care about you. So yeah, we don't have to be dead to be able to speak to someone's higher self or to stay connected on a sacred soul level. Okay. If you'd like more on that, you can always schedule a one-on-one or write more in the comments. I'm happy to elaborate on it. Do we have any more questions on live or okay, from the studio audience? Okay. As the holidays approach, I start to feel anxiety and heartbreak. I want it to be a fun season, but it never is for me. My family is complicated. I'm single with no children, and I hate waiting to be invited places. Should I just go on vacation to an island and pretend they aren't taking place? Well, I especially love this question because I have some similarities in my life. Not exactly, but yeah, the holidays is kind of a time when like couples couple up and like the parties happen and all of that stuff. And I think what I've found is that I make my own parties, and I don't put so much emphasis on the holidays. It's like the holidays are beautiful. I think creating special moments, special parties, special events, like let's just do that. Let's just do that all year long. We don't have to wait for something called Thanksgiving or Christmas or Hanukkah. Let's focus on building community all year long, so that the pressure doesn't have to come to these days where like, what am I doing? Like, you can make a turkey any day of the year and invite a bunch of friends over and drink wine and have mashed potatoes and pumpkin pie. um, it's the weight that we give to these holidays that make them so miserable for so many people. Even the people who have lots of family and have lots of friends and they invite everybody over, it's like the stress of whatever, however the stuffing's going to be done or whatever. It's like, if you're not enjoying what you're doing to bring people into your home, then stop doing it. And yeah, then go on vacation. So I don't think it has to be like I'm single or I'm married or I have family or I don't. I think it's like getting into that mental mindset of, this is a celebratory time where there are different foods, there's different wines, there's different things out there that I get to enjoy that I don't get to enjoy in June. If you're in the United States, if you're in Australia, it's different. And that you just look at the small things and find, the specialness, if you will, in whatever pine flavored ice cream that the restaurant has that they don't have all year long, right? The eggnog or whatever, the glühwein. I'm a big fan of the German markets where you walk around, it's freezing cold and you're hanging on to that glühwein and like keeping your hands warm. Find the joy in the small things and forget about who you're with. I mean, like, okay, not exactly, but forget about the expectations of who you need to be with or should be with or aren't with. And if you go to the markets with a glühwein in your hand and you're all by yourself, that's fine too. Then just go there with the intention of, I'm just going to talk to people, I'm just going to spread joy and cheer, and forget about all of these ideas about what Christmas and New Year's and Hanukkah and whatever your holiday is that you celebrate. They're traditions and they're meant to be fun, but we make them miserable. So don't do that. Just move away from it. And I wouldn't run away. I mean, unless you're like really called to go somewhere over Christmas, if that's fun and that feels right, great, then do it. But don't do it to run away from the holidays, because the holidays will never run away from you because it's in your mind. So until you shift your mind and you shift your affiliation and association with the holidays, nothing's going to change. You're still going to feel that emptiness and that like, oh my God, I'm by myself. So maybe that you don't feel that exactly, but hopefully that's helpful. And hopefully that's helpful for the collective, because I know the holidays really are a challenge for a majority of people. A lot of people put on a good front that they're having fun, and they're not. So it's all about mindset. All right. Let's go on to the next question. Do we have anything more coming online? Okay. So what do I have here? We actually had a lot of pre-submitted questions. How do you take yourself out of the day-to-day life of hardship? My husband was in a bad car accident and is severely debilitated. It's hard to feel optimistic every day because this isn't the life I would choose. I don't want to leave him as I'm committed to him. I'm just wondering if there's another way to face this or change the energy around it. I think it's really brave to even ask the question, because yeah, who wants to be in a situation where you feel like perhaps your life is kind of stolen from you, right? The dream that you had about being married and living happily ever after. And I think, you did call it in. We call in everything. And I know that's sometimes hard. You have a soul contract with your husband. So you guys came into this lifetime agreeing. I know sometimes the skeptics or the people that aren't really in this idea, but you have soul contracts, and you come in and you know what's going to happen on a soul level, and then you're living it on a human level. And so there's a reason why this happened. And I think just simply that you're asking this question is opening up a lot of avenues for you, meaning that you're ready to see things differently. You're ready to perhaps, yeah, approach this differently. And you're saying, and how? How do I do it? Um, Personal connection is always the most profound thing we can do. A lot of times gets confused with like sex or some other idea of like how do we connect with someone. But I'm always going to go back to the basics and say, like, even for any of us, like when you're speaking to someone, are you looking them in the eyes and pausing to hear what they have to say? Are you just like really wanting to hear what they have to say? Again, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe you're doing this, but I'm just going to say, like, what if you just took it to another level where you just really looked into your husband's eyes and you just said, how's your heart today? Like, what's the state of your heart? Like, how do you feel? How are you feeling right now? And sometimes we don't want to hear it because we have our own stuff going on. But, sometimes hearing someone else's heart condition helps us melt our own. And so I would make the eye contact. And the second thing I would do is touch. Like, are we touching enough? I don't know, the actual condition of your husband and, if there's like paralysis, I'm assuming there is because he said he's severely debilitated. But chances are there's a lot of parts of him that aren't debilitated. And we have nerve endings, like think about it this way. I don't know about his feet, but I'm just conceptually, bear with me on this. Like you go to foot reflexology, right? If you've ever seen a chart in a foot reflexology place and they've got like every organ on your body, right? So it's nerve endings. And so I'm not saying like everywhere in your body has all of the nerve endings, but it has a lot of nerve endings. And so wherever your husband has functionality and feeling, go to those spots. And you might be surprised what happens as a result, because those nerve endings might be more accentuated for someone with a disability. I don't know, I'm going like this, so maybe it's something in their shoulders that you can actually touch and feel, and that can activate, because those nerve endings are going to help their heart. Those nerve endings are going to help them feel loved. We know this. All of us as humans, when we get touched in a very kind way, feel different, right? If you want to connect with someone, what do? You touch them. And there's a moment where it just kind of, you anchor into like, oh yes, we're here, we're present. And again, it doesn't have to be romantic. It can be in work situations. It can be with friends. Like, hey, like I see you, just like I see you. So I think the touch part feels really, really important for the connection. The question I often ask people when I hear of something really devastating, so perhaps you'll feel comfortable asking this, maybe not in my words, is, honey, what do you think our soul contract is with each other and for ourselves for this to have happened to you? Oftentimes it brings dead silence, and then it brings, I've never thought of that, and then it brings deep contemplation. And sometimes it's not answered that day. But as you contemplate it, you might find that there are some really good nuggets in there and some juicy tidbits that you've kind of been glossing over. Like maybe there's something more that you're called to share with the world about this situation. Maybe you're to shift this relationship that you have with each other and be able to share it with others. I'm not saying you have to do it for others. I'm saying you do it for yourself. But who knows where this is leading? But it sounds like there's this really deep desire to actually want to do something different in the relationship. So I would jump in on that and really, really dig deep on it. Yeah. Do we have something coming from the?
Yeah.
Okay. Another question. Not a question on that one.
Not on that.
Okay. All right. So hopefully that's helpful on that one. If not, please put it in the comments. We'll move on to the next one.
Question. From an online audience. If partners in a loving relationship are dramatically separated by political positions, is it best to avoid the topic completely?
Well, this is a good one. And thank you for asking it, especially now. I am going to say something I feel like you're not either going to like or not want to accept. But the reality is that all of this political rhetoric is an illusion and a construct. Okay, I know. Just hang with me. We need to get to unity. So, unity is talking about our beliefs, our morals, our ethics, our values, and doing it ourselves every day out there in the world. And that's it. So, I know you're saying, well, but we've got to vote. I'm saying that we need to start pushing energetically to come to unity with other people. And that means not feeling like you're at odds. Like, let me find out like what we agree on. And I'm not saying this is you exactly, but let me find out what we agree on and what we disagree on. No, because then it's like butting heads. Are you Republican or are you Democrat? No, then you're butting heads. You're two sides. It's two teams. It's like, okay, get to the unity. Like, what is the thing that we agree on? Is love important in our lives? Yes. How do we love people? How do we participate? How do we what's the word I'm looking for? How do we contribute? How do we contribute our personal self in the world out there? So, I know your question is like, do we talk about politics? And I would say no, talk about what is important to you, like what means something to you. And do you believe and agree on the core values, the morals, the ethics, the integrity of which you live your life by? And if you do, great, stay in the relationship. And if you don't, then don't, because you're not going to change the other person. The other thing that I would encourage everyone to do, especially now in this like really charged political time, is take it as an opportunity to just hear what someone else is thinking. You might actually learn something. And if you take off the lens of, you know, are they Republican or are they Democrat, right? I'm thinking about people who you don't know. It's like what everybody's trying to do is, what side are you on? Stop it. Stop trying to figure out what side people are on and find out, what do you believe in? What's important to you? I want to get to know you. I care about you. What can we join on together? Like what are the important things that messages we can share, things that we can donate money to, things that we can catapult for other people to help. Like that's the important part, is what do we agree on? Stop figuring out what you disagree on. And if you find something that you're not aligned on, try to understand where the other person's coming from. It doesn't mean that you're saying that they're right and you're wrong or vice versa. It's just like, oh, well, they have a different perspective. Of course, everybody comes from a different background, a different lens. Everyone has all these different nuances. Just dig in there and find out more about the person. Listen more, talk less. And when you do that, you get the other person to be vulnerable. And as long as you don't come after them for what they got vulnerable with you with in sharing, then you're going to find your connection deepens as opposed to, and you can have highly opposing views, but still have a very deep relationship. But you know where you're at, you know where you're aligned and you're not. But if it's something that's like integrity, or it's like morals or ethics or values, and you're misaligned, then I would say then that's not, you're not going to change that person. So yeah, there's some really probably specific nuances there to tune into. All right, hopefully that's helpful. It's such a great time. But now, is there something more on that? No. Okay. So if you have more comments, I'm open to them. Put them on YouTube. Someone else listening in, if it's not your question, but you're suffering from some of this disparity and these things that are happening that are creating everything other than unity. If it's not creating unity, then find a way to create unity, people. This is what we're all about moving forward. This is not about 2 teams, 3 teams, whatever. This is about helping humanity heal together. Okay, with that said, I am so excited when you're here. Do we have another person online? Okay, all right. Ooh, we're down to the wire, but let's take one more. Okay.
Hi, Beth. I've been practicing being direct, thanks to your advice. Now I want to tell people that I like them. If I like them both platonically and romantically. But it's harder than I anticipated it to be. Because some people seem to feel uncomfortable. And I feel a bit discouraged to be direct now. Or I second guess myself before I say things. What should I do?
Stop it. There's a Bob Newhart video. Oh my God, it's so good. It was on Mad TV. It's so old. And he just says, stop it. And so I'm not going to go into all the description of it. Look it up. You'll love it. It'll make you laugh. It's like, I don't know, 6 minutes or something. Just stop it. Like, stop caring. Okay, let me say it, and then I'm going to make sure I frame it right. Stop caring about what other people think. Be compassionate towards other people. Care about being present for other people, but stop caring about what they think. You be you, and you say what you feel. Now, with that said, there's also a way that we can say things to people. We can say it harshly, and we're going to get a harsh reaction. We can say it softly. We can say it lovingly. We can say it, we can say it the total wrong way, and we know it as it's coming out. And then you follow it up and you say, I'm sorry, that didn't come out exactly how I meant it. Here's what I really mean to say. Thank you for being with me as I tried to articulate my feelings. I'm not so good at it. I'm not saying you, but like, if that's how you're feeling, like, I'm not so good. I didn't say it right. Just say it like it is. I'm not great at articulating my feelings. So sometimes I don't say this right. Oftentimes, like, when I know that I don't have like the right words and I'm in a situation, I'm like, I'll often say, I may not say this exactly how I mean it, or I may not say it in a way that is going to come across right. So please just hold with me. And you know what it does? It just diffuses the other person, and they go, okay, all right, tell me what you got. And then I say it, and then sometimes it lands, and sometimes it is really off. I say, okay, let me say a little bit more. Let me explain a little bit more. And people appreciate that. And if they don't appreciate that, here's the really important part. If they do not appreciate that, then it's a good time to walk away. And I don't mean like you just turn your back and you walk away, but you go, oh, all right, this isn't the person to be vulnerable with. This isn't the person to share my actual feelings with. Just say thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for sharing your thoughts, right? Even when they're shitty and they just like say something really terrible to you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing with me how you feel. And then you walk away, right? And you just go, okay, they're not ready for me. A lot of people aren't ready for you. A lot of people are not ready for you to speak your truth, especially if you haven't been speaking it. They're ready for you to just like, oh, okay, I'm just going to make everybody feel happy. And they're like, yeah, And then when you don't, you're gonna get the headbutting for sure. So stick with it. Please stick with it. You can do this. You are doing this. And the benefits, oh my gosh, they are so good and so juicy. When you tell people what you need and how you feel, then the truth sets you free. And everybody just feels better in the end. And if they don't, let them go. It's that easy. It's really that easy. We make these things so complicated. But if they're not ready to be where you are and they're not ready to hear your emotions, your feelings, then they are not worth your time. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's true. They're just not worth your time. So hopefully that's helpful. If you have anything more, please put it in the comments. I'm happy to answer. But we are down to the wire. So unless we have anything that's super last minute, I'm going to close up. Are we good?
And there was just one comment about the political positions.
Okay. Comment about the political positions.
It's a matter of opinions, not just a political side, just how you individually feel.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's an opinion. But what's behind the opinion? Find out. Like, what is their opinion? And why do they have that opinion? Oh gosh, what got you to that opinion? Oh, what do you know that I don't know? Doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that it's going to change me, but I want to know what you know. And oh, well, when you say you know that and I think no, I don't believe that, then you don't believe that. And it's okay. Like, okay, well, then that's your belief and this is my belief. I mean, this is age-old conflict. People have different beliefs about a lot of ideas about things. And people are at different I'm gonna take this back to spirituality because I always do. People are at different levels of awakening. They're going to see things differently. They're at different levels of trauma, like stuff that's happened to them. They're at different levels of life experience, not necessarily age, but just like, I'm going to say one thing and we got to close up. But if you're American and you've only lived in America and you've never lived abroad and you've not traveled or you've not traveled very much, you have a very narrow idea that feels very broad and vast to you because it's broad and vast in your environment. But once you travel the world and you see, oh gosh, there's like a million different ways to look at that egg and describe that egg that I would have never thought about, because we get into these constructs that happen in communities. And so, yeah, just find out more. It's opinions, but they're opinions based on a lens of which you have developed over years and years and years and years and years of your life. So just find out. And if you don't like them then for their opinions, then you don't like them, then it's okay, but we don't have to be mean or rude or call them stupid, or I'm not saying you are doing this. I'm just saying in general, we just honor like, oh, well, that's where they are. It's that simple. Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. All right. Each week, I am so happy to have you here. I love it when you tune in. I love it when you ask questions. I want to know, what is your state of the heart? I want to hear all of your heartbreak, your heartache, and anything that's weighing heavy on you that we can help transform, because we're here for bliss, not for suffering. And so each week at 11:11 Pacific time, please submit your question, show up live. And if you want more resources, you can always schedule a one-on-one session with me. I also do executive spiritual advising, and there's lots of resources on bethbell.me. The Awakening and Healing Handbook, lots of tips, tools, techniques that will help you. There's the Psychedelics Resource Guide. So if you have any interest in possibly unraveling your mind and getting out of the reality that you're in, that might be something to consider. You'll hear all about that in the guide. And there's also the Herpes Handbook. So whether you have herpes or not, there's juicy nuggets in there about viruses of the mind and also how to overcome shame, guilt, and heartache and heartbreak that the herpes virus can bring to lots of families and loved ones. All right. With that said, I can't wait to see you next week, 11:11 Pacific time. And until then, wishing you much bliss and joy on the journey. Namaste.